Hey guys, this is the Movie Hour. I'm your host Danny, and alongside me, my co-host and sister Vanessa.
Hello.
The Movie Hour is your friendly neighborhood podcast where we talk about and make fun of all our favorite films, from the good, the bad, and the downright ridiculous. In this episode, we will be talking about the 1976 supernatural horror film, Carrie. So get your tickets, grab your popcorn, sit back, make yourselves comfortable, and enjoy this episode of the Movie Hour. So this is our second film in our month-long spooky season podcast. This was your recommendation for a supernatural horror film.
Yep.
So it was a good choice.
Thank you.
And this is also going to be the first film that you narrate.
Yes, so exciting.
Very exciting. So I know you'll do great, and I'll let you take over.
All right. Carrie is a 1976 supernatural horror film. The movie is directed by Brian De Palma, who also directed many great films, including The Black Dahlia, Mission Impossible, Phantom of the Paradise, and Scarface, which is probably his most notable movie, even though I've never seen that.
I love Scarface. love Scarface.
I need to watch that. I need to get in my bag and watch that.
It's honestly one of the great gangster movies, and It's a remake of a 1930s gangster film.
Okay,
but
I didn't know that.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody knows that no more.
Right. Well, he did exactly what he needed to do.
He did his thing. But
he did his thing.
You know, if I'm being objective, I think Carrie is probably his best.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I like Scarface better.
Yes.
But I think Carrie objectively is a better film.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Good deal. Yeah, I need to watch Scarface so I can compare the two. And The Black Dahlia. I've been wanting to watch that.
Yeah, and I didn't know he directed Mission Impossible.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that random?
Yeah, that's a random one.
I think it's just the first one though.
Okay.
So I don't know why. It didn't put the other ones, I don't think.
No, I don't think so.
So yeah, anyways, that's his discography or filmography.
Filmography.
Is that right? Okay.
Yep.
Although this movie is filmed by De Palma, it is based on the Stephen King novel, which was released in 1974, so 2 years prior. So.
And that's, I think, his very first book.
Okay, yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
His very first, and I mean, I've read this various times, but I've read that he actually gave up on Carrie.
Yes.
He didn't like it, and he threw it in the trash, I think, the first 3 pages or something.
Harsh.
And yeah, and his wife found it and just told him to finish it, and I'm glad she did, because we got a really good book and film.
Yeah, no, shout out to her. She knew.
Yeah.
She knew. I'm so glad for that, because now we have this amazing movie, which is my favorite movie of all time. So.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. The film's cast includes Sissy Spacek as Carrie White, Piper Laurie as Margaret White, who is Carrie's mom. So I'm going to refer to her as Carrie's mom, but if I slip up and you hear Margaret, it means Carrie's mom.
Carrie's mom, yep.
William Catt as Tommy Ross, Amy Irving as Sue Snell, and a young John Travolta as Billy Nolan.
You know, I watched this I think I've watched it 3 times.
Okay.
And the last time when you told me that he was in it.
Yeah.
That's when I was like, oh wait, he is in it. But the first 2 times, I guess I never put that together.
Yeah, it's kind of not random, but kind of random.
Yeah.
Hey, that's John Travolta.
Is this before, I guess this would have to be before Grease, right?
Yes, I think this is one of his, if not his breakout role.
Okay.
Hence why he's so young in it.
Yeah.
So, it has a runtime of 98 minutes, so an hour and 38 minutes, and can be watched on AMC Plus at the time of this recording. This is the second film in our month-long spooky season podcast and come as a personal recommendation from me. This movie is so near and dear to my heart. I absolutely adore this film, and I've seen it, not even exaggerating, probably a dozen times this point. I feel like Carrie White and I are kindred spirits in a way. So this movie is so special to me, and hence why I'm hosting this episode. Fun fact, we weren't actually planning on me hosting this episode when we decided to do a month-long spooky season podcast.
Right.
But then I kind of just wanted to take over, and I urged to take over, and he let me. So
yeah.
Yay.
No, I think it's a good idea. I mean, it changes up the formula.
Yeah, definitely.
And I feel like when you're passionate about a film that you like so much, I like this film, but you love this film.
I do.
And I think it shows on your voice and your tone. So it's interesting because I feel like you give me a new perspective that,
yeah, definitely.
I'm not used to.
Yeah, definitely. And then you get to take the backseat in this, which is always fun.
Yeah.
You get to, ride it out with me.
Yeah.
So, I am like 80% sure I watched this movie with my aunt as a child. So it does remind me of my childhood. So that's also another reason why I just love this movie. And also, just plainly, I feel like Carrie White some days. I know her character is over dramatized, obviously, for like the movie, but I think she's just so relatable when it comes to topics of like body image and not fitting in and just overwhelming teenage emotions. We've all been there.
Do you think, like, is there like a certain scene that like resonated with you a lot?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously the whole movie, I mean, I'm not, murdering people like that.
I hope not.
Yeah, right? I don't know. I feel like I definitely resonate when she relies so much on her teacher.
Yeah.
Miss Collins.
Yeah. Shout out to her. She's a good.
Yeah, shout out to her.
Good teacher.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, she was always there for her.
Yeah.
And I feel that, not always being accepted by your peers or being ostracized for God knows what reason. It's nice to have at least someone in your corner. Would that be a teacher or a parent? In this case, not a parent, but teacher. Yeah, somebody, an adult, somebody. So.
Yeah, no, I think you make a good point, and I kind of had a point here that I think what makes Carrie great to me is that it takes these like universal fears and like feelings that we all have, like being or wanting to be accepted by our peers, going to prom and all this other stuff, and it makes them very relatable. But in this case, it makes it like terrifying.
Oh yeah,
right. It takes
absolutely
a turn. So
yeah,
I really enjoy that. So
yeah, me too. Good point. I hope I do our podcast justice, as again, this is my first time being the host. So thank you all for listening, and thank you to my brother, the host, for letting me take over this episode.
Woohoo!
As we dive in, be warned, there are spoilers ahead. So without further ado, let's begin.
Right.
The movie begins by depicting the shy and docile 16-year-old high school student named Carrie White as she experiences her first period as she showers with her fellow female classmates after gym class. Already not looking good.
No, and I'm not even a girl, and this will become like a irrational fear for me.
Oh, this is a nightmare.
Yeah.
This is literally hell on earth.
Yeah.
Not good. Not a good experience. And to start off the movie like that, we're going high,
Yeah.
So kind of like we just touched on, it's already starting off strong with the awkward adolescent themes. I mean, starting your period, and not only starting your period, but starting it in front of your classmates while you're showering all together. Not good.
And if I remember right, she doesn't even like know what it is. She thinks she's just bleeding.
Right. Yes.
She freaks out.
Exactly that. Unaware of what is happening to her, she panics and desperately pleads from help from her classmates, believing herself to be bleeding to death. The other girls, led by the arrogant, popular, and beautiful student Chris Hargensen and Sue Snell, who frequently bully Carrie, gleefully respond to this plea by pelting her with tampons, laughing and chanting, "Plug it up, plug it up."
Jesus.
Harsh, ruthless, cruel.
Girls are the meanest.
Man, girls are evil.
Girls are
Some
evil.
girls can be very evil. They can make your life living hell.
Well, the difference I feel like is like a guy, right? You have a problem with the guy. You either fight,
right,
and that ends it, and then most of the time, or not most, but a lot of the times you become friends.
Right.
With girls, is like that never really happens.
Oh no, it's just war.
War and a lot of like talking behind your back, and I don't know. Sometimes that's worse than like a physical pain.
It is. I mean, it's like it's not tangible. Like fighting, and then they pit people against you and spread rumors, and God, I mean, it's war.
Yeah,
so
it's war.
This is definitely war right here by chanting "Plug it up, plug it up." With the rest of Carrie's classmates obviously joining them, taunting Carrie about this. The gym teacher, Miss Collins, breaks up the commotion and slaps Carrie in the face with an attempt to calm her down. The 70s were wild, okay? I remember watching this and being like, "Ooh, wait a minute."
She's a good person. She's a good person.
Yes. She had to calm her down.
Yeah.
She was obviously not overreacting, but she was in a time of panic. So. Yeah,
and then I don't know if you're gonna touch on it, but there's also like kind of a little bit of foreshadowing in the scene.
Right. Yes, there is.
With what's gonna happen later on.
Yeah, absolutely. So Miss Collins slaps her. in an attempt to calm her down, and she manages to console Carrie and teaches her what menstruation is. Already, as a watcher from this kind of opening scene, we understand that Carrie is obviously very sheltered, very naive,
Right.
And lonely.
Yeah.
None of the classmates, none of her peers come to her rescue. They all sit there and taunt her.
Which I feel like, I don't know if you ever did, but sometimes I would feel like that at school.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Where I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Why me?
Yeah, like you feel like you're on an island by yourself, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Basically. In this scene, her classmates bully her, and she has no one on her side beside her teacher.
Yep.
Later that day, the school principal is uncomfortable as Miss Collins expresses bewilderment that Carrie is so uninformed about menstruation, as she is a high school student who theoretically should have already experienced her first period.
Right.
As he dismisses Carrie from school for the afternoon, she becomes frustrated as both cigarette smoke emanates from ashtray towards her, and the principal repeatedly referring to her by the name Cassie, which is just plain rude.
Yeah, the dude's a straight jerk.
Very much a jerk.
You know, like, I don't remember, is he smoking like directly in her face, or is it just a cigarette smoking?
It's just a cigarette, like the smoke kind of, going in towards her direction.
But like that, accompanied with like just calling her Casey,
yeah,
the whole time, right?
Yeah,
and like she's like, Carrie, all right, Casey.
Yeah,
like I don't know, like this dude needs to get slapped.
Yeah, not a good principal at all. You can't be a leader like that. Jeez.
Did you also notice? I don't know if you were gonna touch on this, but and I got another point later on. But did you notice what the school is called?
No, I didn't.
Bates High School.
I did not know that.
As a, I guess as reference to Psycho.
Right. Yeah, love that movie. Great movie. I didn't know that. Fun fact.
Yeah,
there we go. So, like I was saying, the smoke from the cigarette is kind of gravitating towards her. And again, the principal is repeatedly calling her the wrong name, even though the teacher is right next to him, constantly, telling him what her real name is. So Carrie causes the ashtray to flip from his desk and shatter, which is already kind of foreshadowing her powers, her abilities, because she didn't obviously use her hand to flip the ashtray over and shatter it. It just shattered.
And I thought it was funny because like the teacher and the principal, like it's like, okay, just flipped, but like they never like questioned.
Yeah, I know, it's not weird. They're just like, okay, anyways. I would have been like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I was like, what happened?
Right, I need answers. On her way home, a young boy teases Carrie, and she makes him fall off his bicycle with just one look. So again, already we're seeing Carrie's power come into play, but it hasn't been outright talked. Kind of just what we just touched on. Her powers come specifically when she's being mistreated, which, in my opinion, I think is totally like called for. But I digress. The scene also confirms to the viewer that Carrie is so overlooked that the own principal can't even remember her name, even though he's sitting right across from her.
Yeah.
So it's like she's like a ghost. Like nobody really sees her.
Yeah.
So really sad.
Yeah. Really
I mean, up into this point in the movie, I feel like 99.9% of the watchers feel terrible for her.
Of course. I mean, you put yourself in her shoes, or your child, or whatever, and you don't want no one to go through that. And also, I mean, I gotta say, that kid, he deserved that.
Yeah, he did deserve that.
Yeah, he deserved that.
Yeah. Well, who gives you the right to bully people on the street? That's what I say. So yeah, get little Todd or whatever
his name.
Yeah, to
just
fly off his tricycle or whatever. At home, Carrie is abused by her fanatically religious mother, Margaret, who rants about menstruation being this result of sinful thoughts and just a bunch of craziness, honestly. Carrie is physically dragged and locked in a small, specially decorated quote-unquote prayer closet and forced to pray for forgiveness, which is just so sad in reality when menstruation is just not this taboo thing anymore. At least it's very natural. You can't avoid it, really. So
yeah, it's so weird that it's like kind of taboo because it's like a natural function that happens. Like you can't stop it.
Yeah, So at this point, even though you don't really know a lot about her mother at this point, she's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that honestly, she's the worst.
Oh, she is the real villain.
She is the real villain because, like, she's this self-righteous religious
Ugh.
fanatic, and she warns Carrie a lot of like bullies and evils of the world.
Right.
But in fact, she's the biggest bully to Carrie.
Exactly. I'm like, you are the evil lady. Look in the mirror.
Exactly.
Come on. Yeah, no, she's the real villain in the story, and if you've never seen this movie, you're about to find out why.
Yeah.
When Carrie, is finally allowed to go to her room, she gazes into her reflection, which causes the mirror to shatter. So again, kind of foreshadowing the strength of her powers and really what she can do. Even though at this point she doesn't necessarily recognize what these powers mean and what they are, she's powerful.
One thing that I wish they talked about, maybe in the book it talks about it. I wish I read it. I'm
Me
going
too.
to read it.
Me too.
But I haven't read it, but it's on my to be read list.
Yes.
But I wonder if like this is the first time her powers have like really manifested.
Right.
Because, from the start of the movie, she already has a few flickers of power,
Yeah,
right?
that's a good way of putting it.
But, like, has she ever had this before? Because,
right.
I'm guessing, like, she wasn't just being abused this week.
Right.
It started happening before, so I just wonder if they talk about that.
I'm sure that they do.
Yeah.
The book always goes more in depth. So
right.
I'm sure that they do, which I need to read that too. So
yeah,
we should read it together.
We should read it and get back together.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Carrie's classmate, Sue. So Sue, if you don't remember, she is one of the main mean girls who pelts her with tampons kind of in the beginning. So Sue feels guilty for participating in the locker room antics. So she arranges for her boyfriend, the handsome and popular Tommy, to ask Carrie to the upcoming prom instead of her to make up for her cool actions. Which, honestly, I think that that's really noble. I think it, especially at that age, to be like, oh, that was kind of wrong. I shouldn't have done that. And to try and make up for it. Now, granted, I don't know about setting up your boyfriend with another girl if that's the right answer. Maybe you could just gone onto her face and just say, hey, I'm sorry about that. That was really messed up.
Right.
But you know what? She's the only one out of that entire group who at least tried to say sorry for her actions. So
yeah, I guess kind of like you said, I don't know if it's the right way to handle it, but it's definitely, like you said, very noble and very mature.
Very mature.
Very mature. And the way I kind of took it is that she kind of wanted her to go with Tommy to kind of boost her social status.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because kind of like you said, yeah, it might have been better to say sorry to her.
Right.
And probably should anyways. But I think to get her social standings up and her
self-esteem.
Yes, exactly. Get it up. I think it was maybe a good idea.
Yeah.
To go to prom with Tommy.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I never thought of it that way. But yeah, I mean, if this girl, this, docile, submissive, shy, bullied girl is going to go with like the most popular guy in the class, it says something.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Carrie is reluctant to accept the offer as she thinks that Tommy is asking her to prom as another cruel joke, which fair. Ultimately, she is encouraged by Miss Collins to accept the offer. As a direct result of Carrie's classmates bullying and taunting her during her menstruation meltdown, if you will, the girls are forced to serve detention for their actions, and if they do not serve their time, they will be barred from participating in the prom. Which I like this particular scene because in reality, as an adult, you think about like, oh, I can't go to the prom. And it's like, who cares?
Right.
But as a teenage girl, it's the worst thing in the entire world. Like the girls are having a meltdown. They are pouting. They are not happy with this. When in reality, that is the very least that they deserve after all of that.
Well, it kind of puts in perspective like how a teenager is still underdeveloped.
Definitely.
Where they think, prom is the be-all, end-all thing.
Absolutely.
And also, did you notice one of the girls was PJ Souls, who was one of Annie's friends in Halloween?
I saw that online, and I never noticed that.
Me neither.
And then when I saw it, I was like, oh, I guess that does make sense. Yeah. Which is so funny because we watched that recently.
Yeah, we watched that one.
And when I was thinking back, I was like, well, yeah, I guess that does make sense.
Right.
Yeah, so interesting.
I think this is like 2 years before Halloween?
Yes, I think so, yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So interesting.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. The girls' detentions consist of doing nonstop exercises like sit-ups and running in place, for example. Chris, again, the face of the mean girls, furiously throws a tantrum and defiantly skips her detention for tormenting Carrie, resulting in her getting slapped in the face by Miss Collins. Savage.
She deserved that.
She did deserve that one. I'll tell you that right now. She deserved it.
She's the, I thought it was funny. She's the BIC.
Yeah. Yeah, she is the BIC.
And for people that don't know, that's the B word, in charge.
Period. Yeah. And you know what? She deserved that slap. So Chris gets slapped by Miss Collins and gets excluded from attending the prom because of her skipping detention. Right. Swearing vengeance, she recruits her delinquent boyfriend, Billy, so John Travolta, to play a prank on Carrie.
Who's like 30 years old at this time.
I know, literally. I was like, okay, old man.
He's probably not 30, but, you know.
Yeah, he's definitely not 16 or whatever.
You know, and then I never got the point that, like, they're taking revenge on Carrie, but it's actually the teacher.
Right. Yeah, I know.
So they should have popped, like, Miss Collins' tires or something.
Yeah, smash her windshield in or something. Jeez.
But it's like, yeah, the teacher made us do all this, so let's get Carrie.
Right.
You know, it's like...
Yeah, definitely. But again, I think that goes definitely back to your point of just underdeveloped brains, lots of hormones, not thinking correctly. Right. So Carrie is their target.
Yeah.
And as a result, the pair and their friends slaughter pigs from a nearby farm and place a bucket of pig's blood above the stage at the school's gymnasium. So not looking good right now.
Dude, that's like super cruel.
That is so like beyond cruel in my opinion. I think that's just pure evil.
It really is.
If someone did that to my child, there'd be blood. Not okay, well coincidentally, I'd kill someone.
The little ding ding.
Yeah, ding ding. Yeah, no, I'd kill someone.
No, yeah, and then, you know, it's an evil act because one, what they're gonna do to Carrie, but two, they also kill the pigs.
Right.
Multiple, I don't know how many, but
right.
You know, to do this prank, this isn't just like you know, let's pelt her with water balloons. This is, you know,
right. Let's put a banana peel on the floor and let her slip.
Yeah, you know, or whatever. This is just evil,
and it takes a lot of effort.
Yeah,
to go in the middle of the night, sneak into a farm, slaughter the pigs, drain the blood, carry it back to school, and put it up on the ceiling. Essentially,
right.
So this was evil.
Exactly, and I didn't even think about it. The steps in order to get to that part is like, these kids are just evil.
Yeah, I mean, dedicated, but evil. So Margaret, again, Carrie's mom, so they slaughter pigs from the nearby farm. They place the blood above the stage at the school's gymnasium. And so Carrie's mom discovers Carrie's prom plans and attempts to abuse her into submission, basically wanting her to stay home. She throws a glass of water directly into Carrie's face and forbids her from going to the prom, which just evil, so mean.
So mean, yeah.
How dare you throw a glass of water in your daughter's face for saying something as simple as like, oh, I want to go to prom. That's just insane.
Super insane. And then it just, I guess, keeps adding on to Margaret. Like, she's also an evil person.
Right.
You know, and it's kind of like, I would say it's weird that, well, I guess not weird, but you can kind of see why Carrie's the way she is.
Oh, absolutely. Her mother's insane.
Yeah, she's insane. And then not only do we think she's insane, like around the town they know she's insane.
Yes, which also I love that you brought that up because, you know, as a kid watching this, I never really got this point that I'm about to talk about, but now as an adult, yes, Carrie is the way that she is because of her mother, but like, she can't help that.
Right.
I mean, it just goes, you know, it just burns down to that. Like, she can't help who she was raised by. Of course she's going to be a little weird. She can't help it. Look at her mother.
Right.
Her mom's insane. So, of course, she's not going to be this normal, like, peppy girl. I mean, come on.
But, you know, like, I feel like this just goes to her, Carrie, but saying, like, how good she still is because
Absolutely.
she's a little strange. I mean,
sure.
Weird, whatever.
Yeah, sure.
But she seems like a nice girl.
Yeah, she's kind, she's polite, she goes to class, puts her head down, does her work. I mean, she's a good kid.
Yeah, she's a good kid, by all accounts. And
God, I'm about to freak out. It just This is exactly why I love this movie, because she did not deserve all of this.
No, and then I kind of like that point you just said. Like, I feel like these films, not just this one, but like just films in particular, the ones that you really love, they get a emotion out of you.
Yes.
Whether it's funny, whether it's angry, whether
Right.
it's fear.
Yes.
And so that's why I really like that you're narrating this, because I can feel the emotion.
Yeah, man, I ride for Carrie.
And
I ride for Carrie at dawn. I don't care. She did nothing wrong. So, Carrie's mom throws a glass of water directly into her face and forbids her from going to the prom. She repeats over and over that they're all going to laugh at you, seemingly referring to her peers, which foreshadows into the future. So keep that in mind. Carrie, having researched her telekinesis by reading books at the school library, she asserts her power and stands up to her mother. Carrie's mom responds by accusing her daughter of being a satanic witch.
Yep.
Pretty typical.
Yeah.
At the prom, Carrie finds acceptance among her peers as she stuns in a handmade baby pink silk dress that shows off her figure.
Right.
She's wearing makeup, she curls her hair for the occasion, shocking all her peers. Yeah. Because keep in mind, Carrie is, again, shy and reserved, so she doesn't wear clothes to shine. She kind of wears her clothes to hide.
Right.
So this is kind of, in a way, the one moment that we actually see Carrie, where she's not, like, hidden by the hair in her face and, like, looking down. She's confident. She has her head, straight up and her shoulders rolled back. So this is her time to shine, honestly.
Yeah.
She enjoys the night with her date and eventually shares a kiss with Tommy. Scandalous.
Scandalous, yeah.
Keep in mind, Tommy is not her boyfriend. He is just her date.
And the first time I watched this, I was hoping that Tommy would not, like, be in on the prank.
Right, yes, exactly. Because at this point, the watcher doesn't know what's happening.
No.
So I love that you brought that up. That's such a good point.
So, yeah, I was just, like, praying. I was like, oh, I hope he doesn't, like, turn on her, because she deserves a little bit of happiness. Yes. Just a little bit.
Come on, one night. Everyone be nice. Jeez. Chris's friend, Norma, rigs the prom king and queen election, and Carrie is ultimately crowned prom queen. Carrie's joy is cut short when she goes up to the stage at the prom to accept her nomination and crown, when suddenly, Chris, underneath the stage, pulls a rope tied to the bucket above the couple and dumps the pig's blood on. I love this scene. And when I say I love this scene, I truly and wholeheartedly mean I love this scene. Everything about this scene is perfection to me. It is a 10 out of 10. The way that it was filmed, the actresses and actors in the crowd, their genuine shock on their face.
Right.
And I really, really love the detail with the music.
Yes.
So in the scene, as the blood is like falling down onto Carrie and Tommy, the music is so super loud, super dramatic. And as the blood is kind of curdling down Carrie and Tommy and hitting the stage, slowly the music stops playing and all you hear is the blood dripping on the stage, which I just think is so eerie and so creepy, but also really highlights the severity of this moment.
Yeah. No, I was going to touch on a few things that you touched on, but I love this scene as well.
It's so good.
So good. And for multiple reasons, kind of like you were saying, the way that it's shot, the people in the crowd, they're genuine, like, I guess, like, what would you call it? Like,
shock? Horror?
Yeah. Horror, yeah. But also what I really like, even before that, is Carrie and Tommy, they have a slow dance.
Yes.
And, the first time I watched it, I thought it was really silly.
Right.
I thought it was like, kind of goofy.
Yeah.
But honestly, watching it more as an adult and watching it recently, I think it's kind of like to show like a thing of being in love.
Yeah.
Now, maybe not in love with each other, but just enjoying the moment.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And I really like that you pointed out that there's like a deafening silence, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah. It almost feels like you're in the crowd. Like, you want to hold your breath and you're like, what just happened?
Right. And then when the blood is splattered onto Carrie, me as the viewer, I felt like fear, anger, all these emotions. And what I really like is the look that she gives, right? and you feel like hell is about to break loose.
Oh, it's about to get wicked.
And like she's completely broken as a person. And I love the symbolism of the fire in the background. That's kind of like what she's feeling inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, definitely. I mean, I think you made a perfect point right there where it's like that moment, that singular moment with the bucket falling and the blood curdling all over her, that broke her as a person.
Yeah.
And honestly, fair. That would break anybody.
Yeah.
But for her to be tormented and bullied and for her to just, suck it up with a smile on her face and just go through it. But for this to happen, it was the line in the sand.
Also, I don't know if you were going to note it, but Tommy's girlfriend, which I think her name is Sue.
Yeah, Sue.
She actually wanted to stop it.
She did, yes.
She noticed what was going on and tried to stop it.
Yes, she did try to stop Chris from this, cruel, evil prank. But as she was, trying to stop it, she actually got kicked out. They escorted her out by the teacher.
Collins thought she was the one, right?
Yes, Miss Collins saw the rope and immediately thought, Sue, you're planning something. You're going to do something bad here. Get out. Yeah. And quite literally pushes her out the door and locks her.
You're right.
Which ended up ultimately being the worst decision that night.
Exactly.
So, yes, thanks for bringing that up. I totally forgot to mention that. But yes, to Sue's credit, she did try to stop it, but, it went out of her hands.
Right.
So at this point, there is blood-soaked Carrie. And Tommy, who coincidentally, the bucket falls on him and he's knocked unconscious.
Right.
So it's just her standing there. And in the scene, it's quiet and she hallucinates that everyone in the gymnasium, including Miss Collins, who, keep in mind, up until this point has been in her corner.
It's been her rock.
Yeah, has been her rock, is laughing at her. Enraged, Carrie goes on a silent psychotic breakdown, which causes her to unleash telekinetic fury upon the crowd, guilty and innocent alike.
Yep.
The door slams shut. A high-pressure water hose assaults many people, including Norma, who, keep in mind, rigged the prom king and queen election to purposely get Carrie on that stage. And she's knocked unconscious from the water. So, well deserved.
Well deserved.
You're going to hear me say that a lot. They deserved it. The principal is electrocuted. Miss Collins is crushed to death. And Mr. Fromm, who I didn't touch on quite, but he is her English teacher, who earlier in the movie humiliated her in front of her classmates by calling her out, essentially.
Because, if I remember right, something like she was commenting on Tommy's poem or something, right?
Yes.
And kind of like saying that it was beautiful or something, and then kind of making fun of her.
Yeah, like, oh, it's beautiful. Like kind of just mocking her.
Which is, and also to point out that Tommy defended Carrie.
He did, yeah. He didn't have to, but he did.
Yeah, he did.
So, good for him on that end. So Mr. Fromm is electrocuted so badly, his body erupts into flames, setting the gym on fire. As the inferno rages, the enraged and entranced Carrie calmly walks out and locks the remaining students inside, sealing their fates.
Jesus.
Cruel. Harsh. But you know what? You know what I'm going to say?
Should have got your money.
Should have got your money up. Got your money up.
If there was ever a character in cinema, and this is all films, that you could rationalize turning evil.
Oh, yeah.
That would be Carrie.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm a Carrie defender.
Right.
I am a Carrie defender through and through, day and night. I don't care. They got exactly what they deserved, in my opinion.
Honestly, yes. You gotta leave people alone.
Yeah, stop bullying people.
Just leave them alone. Yeah. It's not that hard.
Leave people alone. That's all. Yeah, exactly that. Later that night, Carrie, still entranced with rage, walks slowly home as a fire truck rushes by her. Siren on full blast and racing towards the burning school. Just then, Chris and Billy, so the people who actually pulled the string and, let go of the bucket, attempt to run over Carrie in revenge for the massacre as she walks home. Which is kind of crazy because it's like, you already threw blood on the poor girl and you're going to run her over? Like, they hated this girl.
They hated her. Carrie can't catch a break with these people.
No, they want her dead. But Carrie causes their car to flip over and explode, killing them both by burning them alive. So, all right.
It's not I don't want to say it's funny, but I guess, kind of coincidental, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Because, the car in this movie with John Travolta, it flips over and whatever.
Right.
But then in Grease, doesn't it, like, he, like, supposedly goes into the path, right?
Yeah. He can't get a break with these damn cars.
With these cars, man. I mean,
I know.
Eventually he's going to die.
Right. I know, right? Yeah. That's so funny. At home, Carrie washes the pig's blood off in the bathtub, finally breaking out of her insane state. Carrie is comforted by her mother, who strokes her hair as she tenderly comforts her in her arms, revealing her guilt about having conceived Carrie through her only act of sexual intercourse with Carrie's drunken father, which could be classified as marital rape, as she had both in part enjoyed it and loathed it.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, like, to me, that revelation was extremely disturbing.
Yeah, it really is.
Because she said, like, that she was, like you said, raped.
Right.
But that she enjoyed it.
Right.
Right? So, like you said, like, kind of didn't want it, but then enjoyed the experience. So, to me, it was extremely disturbing, but in another way, it kind of, to me, explains her character in a very subtle way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Why she's this fanatical nut.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think just that kind of moment right there, you could see, like, okay, that explains a lot of her background and explains why she just treats Carrie like trash.
Right.
Like, she, I think it's kind of safe to say she didn't want Carrie.
Yeah.
So, poor Carrie didn't have a choice in this and now had to live with that.
Right.
As they prayed together, Carrie's mom stabs Carrie in the back and pursues her through the house with a delirious smile on her face, which is so scary.
And I love this scene. I wanted to point this out. Yes. I love this part particularly because I don't know if you noticed it, but when Margaret, or Carrie's mom, she has the stabs her in the back, and then I think it's kind of chasing her around the house with it.
Yes.
She does like a motion almost like in Psycho.
Yeah. Yes. Right? Very much. Very dramatized. Like,
right.
Back and forth, back and forth.
And I love that because then it ties back into that first part that I said, that the school was named Bates High School.
Yes.
So I think it's a big reference to Psycho.
Which I never caught that. Even now, I never caught that. So that is a great point. And shout out to Psycho. Yeah. So Carrie's mom stabs her in the back and pursues her throughout the house. Defending herself, Carrie causes kitchen utensils to fly through the air using her telekinesis and crucifies her mom. Distraught. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
She's kind of like Jesus Christ crucified, right?
Exactly.
And,
yes.
Yeah, so I love that.
Yeah, me too. It was a nice touch. They didn't have to do that. They could have just had her, laying on the floor. Yeah. But that was a good touch. Yeah. Distraught over her mother's death, Carrie loses control of her powers as the house crumbles and burns down around her. Sometime after Carrie's death, Sue, the sole survivor of the prom massacre, because again, she got kicked out of the prom. They literally locked her out of the prom. And she tried to get in, but just couldn't.
How lucky is that? Like, that she tried to save, well, first she tried to stop the situation from happening.
Right.
She gets kicked out.
Right.
And somehow that event, she was in an event where she could have stopped Carrie from going crazy. Right. But also, since she tried to do that, she got kicked out and was saved.
Yeah.
And she wasn't killed.
Right.
Right. So pretty crazy.
Yeah, that is very, very crazy. Her luck at this situation was very insane.
She needs to play the lottery.
I know. Play the lottery right now. So Sue, the sole survivor of the prom massacre, is seen laying flowers on the charred remains of Carrie's home, beside a vandalized for sale sign saying Carrie White burns in hell.
Even dead, she can't catch a break.
She can't. I mean, geez, you people need to leave her alone.
Jeez.
Just then, a bloody arm reaches from the rubble and grabs her, causing Sue to wake up from her reoccurring nightmare, screaming.
The first time I watched that scene, I got so freaked out.
It is very scary. Like, if you're not expecting it, it's a jump scare.
It's a good jump scare, yeah.
Especially because that's the ending.
Right.
That is how the movie ends.
Love it.
So good.
Love it.
The kill count for this film totaled 73. Obviously, I'm not going to list out all 73 because we would be here all night.
Right.
But to kind of sum it up, Carrie dies, her mother dies, most of her bullies die, her teacher dies, and basically anyone affiliated with the school died.
Right.
Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. A new record.
Yeah, a new record. Carrie, she was on it.
This one's going to be hard to beat.
Yeah, really. It's up there.
It's up there, yeah.
We will now go to our rating system. So if you don't know our rating system, 1 star is equal to 1 tub of popcorn on a scale to 10. I'll go first. I give this movie 10 out of 10 tubs of popcorn.
Woohoo, your first 10 out of 10.
I know! This is a record overall. I give this movie 10 out of 10 tubs of popcorn. This movie, kind of, if you haven't already noticed, is just ultimate perfection to me. I love this movie. I'm so passionate about this movie. And kind of like how I touched on in the beginning, I resonate with so many of the themes of just distrust in people and authority figures and body image issues and needing control over oneself and just all of that. I just feel so kindred to Carrie White.
Yeah.
And of course, the movie with all the murders and everything and the way that, everyone died that night at prom is so interesting. Like,
oh yeah,
kind of in a way, everyone kind of got their own karma.
Yes.
They all didn't die necessarily in the same way. Some people died by electrocution, some people died by fire. Overall, such a good movie, and they all deserved what they had coming to them. And Carrie White, I love you forever.
So I'll go next. I give this. Hopefully you don't hit me with this, but 8.5 tubs of popcorn.
That's still high. I was gonna say, if you say anything under 5, we're gonna have issues.
Oh no.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't ever in your life.
No. This is a very great movie. I love this movie. It's one of my favorite horror films. Also one of my favorite films in general. I think it's a classic, and it's one of my favorite Stephen King adaptations.
Yeah, it's good.
Honestly, my favorite is always going to be The Shining.
Fair enough.
It's going to be hard to top that one for me.
Fair enough.
But I also love Misery. You know, this one and Misery are probably around the same for me, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And Pet Sematary, I love that one.
Good.
I'm actually reading that one.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm reading that one. Yeah, I think the film is great. I think Sissy Spacek, she's incredible. And honestly, one of my favorite performances in any horror film.
Man, she gives a killer performance.
Yeah.
She's a star.
Yeah, and I wish I knew more films that she was in, because I would like to watch them.
I know. I don't know I'm sure she is in other films, but this role, she killed it.
She's on it on this one.
She is Carrie White.
And, my only criticisms of this, to me, and these are very little things, personal preference, but
sure.
To me, her mother is like the scariest person on the screen.
She is scary.
Even when Carrie goes full on crazy, I still feel like her mother was like more terrifying, because she's this like crazy religious nut.
Yeah, it is scary.
And yeah. So, anyways, I thought that she was scarier than Carrie, which maybe is part of the film, the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think one thing that I didn't like as well, or not that I didn't like, but I felt like it kind of went on a little too long, was the prom scene.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I felt like it kind of slowed it down. Not necessarily in a bad way, but it just kind of like, I felt like it was like great, and then it kind of slowed down a little bit.
Okay.
I guess obviously to set up for the big,
Right.
But just personal preference, I wish it would have cut a little bit.
Okay, interesting.
But, other than that, it's nothing too big. I love this film, so.
Okay, those are interesting criticisms, and I'll take it.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, I love it, so.
Good. What is your movie recommendation for this episode?
All right, guys, I got a good one. And I hope I don't go on a rant on this, but I love this film, so. So to kind of go on with our supernatural theme, if you will, I'm choosing for my movie recommendation for the week none other than the 1981 classic, The Evil Dead.
Ooh.
I love The Evil Dead.
Good movie.
It's directed by Sam Raimi, who directed the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man trilogy.
Love that movie.
I love him, yeah. And, I can go on and on about why I think this film is great, but basically, it's one of those few horror films that actually scared me. Like, this film actually scared me.
Right.
And I was, like, super afraid of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Fair enough. It is scary.
It is scary. And what I really love about it is how it's filmed and the way it looks. Now, granted, this is 1981 with a very low budget.
Right.
And some of it hasn't aged the best.
Yeah, naturally.
Naturally. But I still love it with all its faults. And I don't know, like, when I first saw it, I felt like even someone like me, if I can get my buddies and a camera, I could make this movie.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I could, but...
Right.
It's like they just did it in the woods.
Yes.
Basically with their friends.
Right.
On a very low budget. and made this incredible film.
Yes.
So I loved it, and it kind of showed me that, like, I don't know, you can do so much with so little.
Yeah, that's a great, way of putting it.
So yeah, I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. It's one of my favorite.
All right, good
Yeah.
deal. Good. Well, my movie recommendation for this week's episode is Misery. You
Woohoo.
kind of take right, woohoo! You touched on it a little before your movie recommendation, but Misery is a movie based off of a Stephen King novel.
Yep.
And in a way, kind of reminds me a lot of Carrie, which makes sense because it's written by the same person, Stephen King.
Yep.
But it revolves around compulsion and suffering and control, to put it lightly.
See, I feel like I think her name's Annie Wilkes, right?
Yes.
I feel like Carrie could have become Annie Wilkes.
Yeah, Annie Wilkes is scary.
It's scary.
She scares me.
Yeah, she is scary.
Yeah.
Because she's so like non-threatening from outside.
Right.
Like you don't think she's a threat, but she is a threat.
Right.
And yeah, so I think like Carrie's on one spectrum of like, even though having a bad childhood or whatever caused her to be still a good person,
Right.
just shy.
Yeah.
And Annie's the opposite, where she probably had a bad childhood, but she went on the opposite end,
Right.
and just crazy.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And to touch kind of on what you just said, in my opinion, I feel like a reason why, as the watcher, we may not be so afraid of Carrie, because I feel what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying. Like, she's not scary.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, she's like really powerful and like intimidating at some points in the movie, but
Right.
she's not scary.
Right.
I think a reason why that is, and again, this is just my opinion and my hypothesis, if you will, but I think it's because we kind of see not necessarily like her backstory, but like almost her backstory.
Yep.
And we humanize her. We feel, similar to Carrie. I think everyone can relate to Carrie in some way or another.
Yeah.
So I feel like that having that humanization of her, it makes it hard for us to see her as this like big, scary, evil person. Whereas Annie Wilkes, if I'm in the same room as her, I'm running the other way.
Well, that's a good point. I never thought about it. The whole movie, she's been this victim.
Exactly.
And honestly, I don't know if you noticed, but none of the kills started until like the hour and 20 minute mark.
Yeah.
And this movie's like an hour and 38 minutes, I think you said?
Mm-hmm.
So, the last 20 minutes basically is when the kills happen.
Absolutely.
And I don't think there's any, well, there are a few kills in Misery, but right from the bat, we kind of have this deal that Annie Wilkes is off.
Yeah, she's a little off.
She's off. So that's a good point. I never thought about that. We're kind of dragged through her journey of, being the victim.
Yes.
And exactly. Annie, we get from the beginning, she's just the villain.
Right.
Right from the beginning.
Yeah.
So that's a good point.
I think that's just a different point of view. And again, kind of talking about Carrie's mom, Margaret, at least for me, the reason why I feel so scared of her is because I think we all either know someone like a friend of a friend who's like very ultra religious, where they use it as kind of a crutch. Holier than thou, I'm better than you because of X, Y, and Z, and I go to church and all of these. So I feel like her character is kind of honestly very realistic.
Right.
Especially, we live in Texas. We live in a very red state where that's kind of sort of normal at times.
Oh yeah.
So when I watch this movie and I see her, I'm like, ooh, I'm kind of scared of her. I wouldn't want to interact with her.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, my movie recommendation is Misery. If you've never seen it, first of all, go watch it. What are you doing?
Yes.
Watch Carrie first though, and then watch Misery, and then tell me which one you like better.
I love Misery too. Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, just doing it real quick, I'll probably put Carrie a little bit ahead of Misery, but I love Misery too. That's a good one.
Yeah, Misery is very good. I really do enjoy that movie.
Oh yeah.
So, as stated in our previous podcast, for the entire month of October, so 5 weeks, which equals to 5 podcasts, every Thursday available on our YouTube channel at the Movie Hour Podcast, no spaces. We will be reviewing our favorite horror films. We just finished our supernatural film, so this is the supernatural film. So next up is psychological, and then demonic, and then slasher type.
Right.
So the next episode, our beloved host returns to take his throne. And then I will host the one afterwards.
Right.
So this was my first one. So hopefully my second one, I get even better, and kind of learn the ropes. Do you have any closing thoughts or comments or anything about this episode?
No, I just think I think it was a great film. I love this. It's a great supernatural film, horror film, obviously, and I really like that we did this one because I can feel your passion.
I'm very passionate about
And
this.
I love that. I think it made this episode run really smooth.
Thank you.
And I think you did a great job. So
thank you. Yeah. Awesome. Well, my closing thoughts. If you've never seen Carrie, out of all the movies that we have reviewed, I urge you to watch this one. Unfortunately, this one is very limited on platforms.
Yeah.
If you didn't catch that at first, it is at this moment only available on AMC Plus. Hopefully, and I'm hoping it returns to like a major, platform. But if you've never seen it, maybe consider watching a few clips on TikTok or maybe a summary on YouTube just so you could see the actual movie clips. Obviously, we can't play it here. But I urge you to watch it. I mean, it really is just a phenomenal movie. And I think every single person can relate in one way or another of just
for sure
not belonging. Oh, yeah. Kind of, to put it shortly. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed my hosting. Kind of how you mentioned earlier, I am very passionate about this movie, so it just means a lot, and I'm so happy that we got to talk about this movie. If it wasn't going to happen now, it was going to happen eventually. Oh, yeah. So I'm glad that it happened now. And if you don't have anything else to add, I don't. And we can wrap up this episode of the Movie Hour. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you on the next one.
See ya.
See ya.